guys, welcome back to my channel. So let's talk about the 25 books that I'm going to read in 2025. I'm just so excited. It's like TBR for the whole year, and this is the most exciting thing ever because a lot of these books have been highly anticipated books, ones that I might not have gotten to read in 2024 sadly, but I'm making the time and I'm prioritizing them in the upcoming year. So these will be authors that I haven't had the chance to read yet, authors that I have read and loved and will be reading more of, and then also just really highly anticipated books that I can't wait to get to. I think I might just start off with my physical books. I think that would make a bit more sense. So this is supposed to be like a dark romance hockey kind of book, and I'm so excited because I've heard great things about this. And look at the flop is flopping. There's a few pictures in here, digitally signed by the author. Love that. Also something that I've been really wanting to get to, and it's dark academia. So obviously I'm still in the mood for dark academia books, so anything that's dark academia is just up my alley. I actually don't know much about this. All I know is it's dark academia, and it's by the same author who wrote The Sword of Kagan, which I haven't read, but I've heard like such great things about that book, so I'm hoping this one will be just as good. I mean, you gotta start somewhere, right? And then the last physical book I have, which is Never by Jessa Hastings. Anything Jessa Hastings writes I will read, and she is my author. Magnolia Park's universe, absolute my favorite book series of all time, so I'm hoping this one will be just as good because I devour the way that she writes her books. Her writing style is just very unique. The Ministry of Time, I think it was supposed to be like a science fiction kind of book, and all I know is that Emily Henry loved this book, so I mean I have to read this one as well because I feel like I'm on the stage where I trust what Emily Henry says. Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. I'm literally slowly but surely making my way through all of her books, and I adore Alice Feeney. There was one or two books where I didn't absolutely love, but I still really enjoy her books, and this one is, I'm sure, is gonna be just another great thriller. Lady Macbeth, again, I read Ava Reid's I Still Doing Drowning, and I absolutely love that book. I think the way that she wrote that book, I think that was a debut novel for her, so it may or may not have been her debut novel. Anyways, I love that book, and I'm hoping this one will be just as good. I think it's supposed to be something along the lines of dark academia. Am I right or am I wrong? Please someone tell me. The Wedding People. Listen, if there's one thing and one thing only I will read about books and characters that have realistic twist on them, so the Magnolia Parks, the Boys of Tolman, who else am I thinking of? Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I feel like those three series are just very realistic on the way that the characters have been written, the situations, so you will kind of relate to some degree about the characters. And anyways, I've heard The Wedding People is supposed to be realistic and toxicity and just bingeable, so I'm hoping I will love this because I love like other realistic book characters and book stories, if that makes sense. The Song of Achilles, I've heard great things, and I think this is supposed to be like all the book talk wreck. I know at some stage years and years ago this was a highly recommended book on Book Talk, so I just never gotten around to reading it, so I definitely want to make the time to read it in 2025 because I feel like that's something that would be right up my alley. Done and Dusted. I love Elsie Silver, and I feel like she writes the cowboy romances so well, and I just want to start comparing other cowboy romances. Like, I want to see if it's Elsie Silver that I love the cowboy romances for, or it's literally the cowboy romances that I love. The Book of Azrael, again, I feel like this one has been kind of making its way through Book Talk, and it's a fantasy series, but it's also morally gray female character, I think it was. I feel like this is going to be right up my alley again, and like I keep saying that, but again, like these books are really highly anticipated reads for me, so I mean, hence why they're on the list, and I don't really know that much about all of these books. I do like to go into them blind. Flock is a dark romance book, and I've just heard that this book series is supposed to like really destroy you in general and just break your heart. Again, I feel like that I'm going to vibe with it so well. So I do have a little bit of fluffy romances. I think this one is a fluffy romance anyway. But The Vows, I've heard this is like 5-star book for so many people. Every time I've seen this book going around on bookstagram. Everyone loves it. So I'm like, okay, you gotta start somewhere. I've never read anything by this author again. Summer romance, I feel like this is going to hit so well in springtime, summertime even. Like, I have to put on some books on the list that will be for different seasons. This one is going to be obviously for that kind of season. Again, I've heard nothing but great things about this book. Okay, this one, I don't remember who actually recommended this book, but this is supposed to be Criminal Minds. So each book is supposed to be based on the main character in Criminal Minds. So basically like Hotch. I think this one is supposed to be actually based on Hotch. Then there's like 3 more books in the series, and they're like, why can't I think of anyone else's name? Oh, Spencer. I'm sure I'll remember. Now I can't think of the top of my head what the other 2 men are called in it. Anyway, but this one is supposed to be, I think, on Hotch. So I'm excited. I love Criminal Minds. Like, I'm such a Criminal Mind girly. Also, if anyone has seen the newer seasons, like, it's just bittersweet because like you get to see all of these actors that you've been watching Criminal Minds for like years, and then they're suddenly, you know, aged, and it's so bittersweet. Anyway, moving on. Then we have the Vixens lead. So this one is Tate James. I never read anything by Tate James, and I think this one had like mystery, but it's also mixed with dark romance. I feel like it might be for me, but I am also hoping that it's not going to be really cringe, because I've read some books, like dark romance books, that have been just so cringe. Like, sometimes they just put in too much spice. Like, it needs to be just the right amount of spice, and just, I don't know, sometimes they just overdo it, right? And it could be White Shoes, I think. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Cleopatra and Frankenstein. Again, this one has been like, I've always been eyeing this one every time I went into a bookshop, but I was just like, oh, I'll read it later, I'll read it later. Now is the time. 2025, I'm setting it in stone. I will be reading this finally. One for My Enemy, Olivie Blake. Listen, I love Olivie Blake with my whole heart. One of my favorite book authors ever. And again, Jessa Hastings has like very similar kind of writing style. Her books actually have a plot. Olivie Blake, I feel like has like, don't read her books for the plot, because sometimes her books don't make sense, but then her writing style is like very unique. So I think it was a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. Fredrik Backman is very similar to Jessa Hastings, I feel like, but he has more of a plot. I just think it's very unique because like I obviously tend to read more female book authors than male authors. For whatever reason, the way that Fredrik Backman writes his books and the way that he thinks about things and analyzes things, the fact that a man can think of all of these things, and like he seems very wise, and just like I'm amazed the fact that like a man can write all of these like intricate kind of things, and I love him for that. So he is again one of my favorite book authors. I can't wait to read this. Then we have Legendborn. This one is supposed to be young adult dark academia, I think it was. I am putting quite a few books of dark academia just because it literally has become my favorite book genre of all time, and it's something that I really am gravitating towards. I am a little bit skeptical because it is young adult, but then again, I've heard so many great things about this, so I am making the time to read this in 2025. Dowry of Blood. I feel like this one is going to be so good in like the autumn time. The vibes are going to be there, and I feel like this is definitely the book that I want to make the time to read in autumn, so that's why it's on the list. Again, I've never read anything by S.T. Gibson, but I've heard great things, and I've heard that this one is the best S.T. Gibson has come out with as of yet. Babel. Listen, this is another dark academia book. It is by Oraf Kwang, and listen, I have read Yellowface by her, and I didn't like it. I didn't love it. So I'm very skeptical going into another one of her books, but again, I've also heard that this one is really good, and I've also heard Poppy War by her is like really good. But also, so many people have said Yellowface was like one of the best books that they've ever read, and I read it and I was like really confused because I was just irritated and frustrated, and yes, that was the whole point of the book. So we are going to give Oraf Kwang another chance, and hopefully she redeems herself. One Dark Window, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. Like, one part of Book Talk absolutely love One Dark Window, the other half absolutely hate it because like it's so slow, but I'm also, it just depends on my mood. Sometimes I will gravitate like a slower kind of pacing in a book, and then sometimes I want something that's like fast paced. So it really depends, I feel like, on my mood, and hopefully I can get to it when I'm in a mood for like a slower pacing. So it's on the list. I do need some fantasy, so it's another book author that I love. Again, this one is pre-ordered. Emily Henry, Great Big Beautiful Life. I'm at the stage where I really trust Emily Henry. I see the hype with Emily Henry books, and I see the hype with her. Okay, and last but not least, we have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I actually have no clue what this one is about, but I again trust in V. Schwab. I feel like she has like very unique stories. I'm just excited to get to more of her books, and this one is highly anticipated for me. But yeah, those are the 25 books that I am planning to read in 2025. Let me know if you read any of these, or if you're going to read any of these, and is there any other book that I should put on my 2025 TBR, because I am so excited for the upcoming year, and I hope all of you are going to have an amazing year as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.